Yeah, ring my bell.
Everybody take a seat, please.
Ah, hello there.
How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
I have a sign for your son out in my yard. Well, I said we'd wait 2 minutes and 12 seconds, but everybody's so quiet, I guess it's me again. So I'm Andrea Love, president of the Canal Improvement Club, and we enjoy our candidates nights. So we're so happy that you all came, and we're happy that all of the candidates who've been every night this week probably, and even more weeks came to join us too. Constance Gibson, our vice president, and Wally Kleisman, our treasurer, are going to be the moderators tonight. Mary DeForest, she's our secretary. I'm saying that she's the hostess of this organization tonight. She's the one who put this on. We want to welcome the candidates who've come to yet another meeting. Thank you, guests, for coming. You're our constituents in the Canal Improvement Club, and you are their constituents. How about if we have pledge of allegiance, please? Rise.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, we're going to have to talk about the last day to register to vote, which is October 8th. Okay, that's the right date, October 8th. I'm sure you're all registered here to participate. Some of you citizens have already attended a lot of this kind of meeting. We're hoping our forum will be a little bit distinct in that the Canal Improvement Club's focus is very, very local to our little corner of the county and the canal. So we have solicited from our friends and neighbors online and face-to-face related to our very small locale for our candidates. So we're hoping that that's the kind of questions that you will see. Our timers are Elizabeth Dills. Okay, and Sandy Klagman. Okay, so you all have the placards. I don't need to say anything about that. Candidates have been divided into 3 categories: county, state legislature, and state senate. The order of speaking will be alphabetical by elective office and by last name. We have provided the candidates information on the order in which they will be speaking. So this is the format. For each elected position, the format will be a 2-minute opening statement, a include an introduction to yourself, why you're running for the position, and what distinguishes you from your opponent. 2, each candidate for each elected position will be asked a different question developed by our executive committee with input from everybody. So that you will have 90 seconds to respond, and then the opponent will get 45 minutes to address. Yeah, okay. Now that's the point. Are you ready? You got 45 minutes. Sorry. We like lemons. 45 seconds. Oh, and here's our come right up. 45 seconds to respond. Then the original candidate will get another 30 seconds to respond to the opponent's response. After both candidates have answered their questions and given responses, each candidate will get 1 minute for a closing statement. We know that you appreciate all of our candidates and that you will be very enthusiastic about their comments. However, in the interest of time, we would like you please to not to hold your applause until the end of the forum. We would like you not to clap after everybody, even though you may enthusiastically wish to do so. So please hold that and hold your clapping until we're done for everyone. Yes, ma'am? Thank you. Did I did address them?
Well, let me just say
okay.
that,
all right.
that the time papers will be giving a 30-second warning for the major opening statements and the question, and then a red flag and maybe a chime to stop, and then you'll stop. Now, the short response is 45 seconds and 30 seconds. It will be the chime and the red piece of paper, that's it.
So you have the format ahead of time, I think. You do not. You have the format.
Yes.
Okay. So
Do you want to have Karen, even though, Karen, you want to speak? This is our retiring Mason County Auditor, Karen Herr. Last time you're going to see
Council asked me to come and tell you about, there's a couple of deadlines that are coming up for this election. The first one is this Monday. It is October 8th. It is the last day that you can register by mail or online or through a voter registration drive. Also, it's the last day that you can change your address if you move. The second deadline is October 29th, and it is the last day that you can vote in this election if you are not yet registered in Washington State, but you must come into our office in person to register. I'd also like to remind everybody that, again, in the general election, if you choose to return your ballot by mail, it is postage free, no stamp is required. However, I'd like to advise you, if you tend to vote early, return your ballot by mail or in one of the ballot boxes. However, if you're like my husband, who waits for the last minute and votes election day or a couple days before, I highly encourage you to return your ballot in one of the ballot drop boxes, because you can mail your ballot on time, but it may not be postmarked in time to count. Because your ballots must be postmarked by election day to count. So ballots will be mailed out in 2 weeks, October 16th. And I've got blank voter registration, the forms in the back, and also sample ballots. Thank you.
a little segue to that, you all clap for, but we're coming just for your information, the mail leaves the Union Post Office at 2 o'clock on election day. So if you get your mail, your ballot in on election day and it's after 2, it will not be postmarked at 9. So a day early or early in the morning. That's very local to us. I'm not sure about all of the other post offices, but in Union, it's 2 o'clock. Or 2:30, but they say 2 o'clock. All right, Wally and Constance, you may begin.
All right, the first set of candidates we're going to be hearing from are the two running for Mason County assessors, Patty McLean and Melanie Peterson. So you can start with your opening statement.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming. McLean. I'm a lifelong Washington State resident, and Mason County has been my home since 1973. I've been a school board director in 2016 for the Marionite School District, which I attended all my life and graduated from in 1980. I am an active member in our community, participating in the Shelton Nimrod Club, along with locally volunteering with our local range and blood drives. I've worked in an assessor's office for the past 27 years. In that time, I have gained knowledge of the administrative aspects of the office as well as worked with the software developers on our software program. I also have become an accredited appraiser that understands the entire process from start to finish. In 2014, I was encouraged by colleagues and community members to run for the position of assessor in Mason County. With minimal campaigning, I was able to garner over 46% of the vote in the general election. Those numbers were eye-opening. I realized that my work ethic, experience, and accessibility were qualities that the taxpayers of Mason County had come to rely on from me and were ready to see in their assessor. With your vote, I look forward to bringing transparency and accountability back to the Mason County Assessor's Office. I believe that I can earn the trust of this county and present fair and timely assessments of your homes and businesses. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Patty. Melanie?
Thank you. Always good to see a good group here tonight. Thank you for coming. I'm Melody Peterson. I am your county assessor. I have worked in the assessor's office for over 20 years, beginning at the front counter and being promoted several times within the office, and finally being selected for the management position of chief deputy assessor, and held that position for 7 years. Before I was elected assessor. Whoop, got my words wrong there. The job of the assessor is to administer fair and equitable values for taxation purposes. And I will continue to see that this is provided to all the taxpayers of Mason County. The assessor's office, despite budget reductions and employee layoffs, continues to apply correct appraisal procedures to create values for property. We maintain good ratings with the State Department of Revenue. We've successfully passed audits by the state. We have improved and continue to improve our website to provide more and better information for taxpayers 24/7. We have begun auditing parcels that are in tax exempt status to ensure that they are in compliance with the program they applied for. The majority of our change of value notices are now sent on postcards, and we also have e-notices available. And this is all a savings on your postage. And so far, we have stayed within our budget. We have not asked for any supplementals. I am Melody Peterson, running for re-election of the county assessor. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. The first question is going to go to Patty. Patty, given that this office will continue to operate under the same state laws, same software, and limited funding from the Mason County budget, what will you do differently from the incumbent to run the office and maintain services and confidence among the citizens?
Well, the software that we purchased in 2010 was able to handle the annual update and run efficiently and effectively. It will return timely assessments. My first priority when I am assessor is I will reopen the assessor's office back to the public on Fridays. Currently, they're in there working, but they're not, there's no taxpayer service on Fridays. That'll be my first priority to the county. I feel I can do this by working the counter myself, to allow the constituents face-to-face time with their assessor, and allow my staff uninterrupted time to meet deadlines and get their work done. So that'll be my first priority. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melody. You can respond if you want.
Okay, I will, thank you. Because we had to reduce the number of hours that our employees worked, and I'm addressing the Friday closings, we don't always have the person in the office that you may need to talk to, and we also have to take into consideration that I have 2 unions in the office. I have an appraisal union and I have the clerical union. Well, the appraisal union members cannot work up front, and most of the time they are out in the field doing inspections, or they have their own work that needs to be done that is also being stressed by not having enough people. And as far as doing what I have to do, I felt that I have been very creative. I've considered the taxpayers, I have considered my employees, and I have to consider both unions, and I have to consider the lack of funding also, but I try to be creative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Patty, you've got 30 seconds if you have something else to say.
So that would be the difference, is I'd be able to step up with the same budget restraints and work the front counter myself. Currently at Grays Harbor Assessor's Office, we have a flex schedule. We have every other Friday off, and that Friday that we are there, there's 2 or 3 of us there, and we remain open to the public. I know it can be done, and I've worked the front counter for many years, and I can do a good job at it. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Now you both have 1 minute for a closing statement, again, starting with.
Doesn't Melody get a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, she does. As a matter of fact.
Okay, right?
Patty's gonna help.
Just to let you know, we are giving a typed copy of the question we're asking the candidates, so they can not have to ask us, would you repeat the question? So, Melody, state law requires the county assessors to get supporting documents to those who appeal county property evaluations 21 days prior to a hearing before the Board of Equalization. What are you going to do differently to ensure the assessor's office meets this timeline?
It depends on when our hearings are scheduled, how many hearings we have, and how many people I have available to create the rebuttal for the not Department of Revenue, with the Board of Equalization hearings. Because there's, once you apply to have, apply to the Board of Equalization to appeal your value, then we have to specifically go in and look at that land a little more in detail, and we have to pull comps, and we have to equalize the comps, and we have to, there's a lot of work that goes into those. So if we get assigned a lot of hearings all at the same time, then we don't have a lot of time to prepare our rebuttal as well as we could. So it's a matter of time, it's a matter of timing on how quickly the board hearings are set and how many people we have to do what we have to do. Right now, I've got 2 people that's what they do right now. They write up DOEs, they write up board hearings for people. Thank you.
You have 30 more seconds.
Oh,
Still got 30 seconds.
So yeah, you know, we, in the budget, we're trying to get another appraiser position, which would help us immensely. So I'm, you know, hoping that we will be fully funded for 2019 and be able to bring my clerical staff up to full-time, be able to reopen the office, and be able to get our board hearings done in a timely manner. Thank you.
Well, you've got 45 seconds.
Well, the staffing level in the assessor's office is low, and the appraisals, the appraisers need to be brought up, you know, to higher count. I feel if I'm assessor, I can step in and get the board of appeals started to be answered in the timeline that needed, you know, it needs to be answered on. I feel the appraisers need a little bit more time, you know, allotted for that also, so I'll allow them time to get that done. So if the assessments are done on time and early, and they're correct, there should be less disputed values, therefore less, you know, court appeals. Thank you.
And Melody, you've got 30 seconds if you've got anything else to say.
I had something, but just, I didn't realize I had a time to request that, so.
Well, all right,
gone.
now we
gone.
can move on to the closing statements.
All right. Well, thank you again for all coming, or you all coming. I think there is a consensus from the public that the assessor's office could improve their customer service. Having served the taxpayers of Mason County for 26 and a half years, most taxpayers have come to know my service. They have reached out to me personally for the clarification on the changes in the office, and they still could not believe the office was closed 1 day a week when all the offices faced budget cuts and they remained open. As assessor, I will bring my service record along with transparency and accessibility to the forefront as our elected officials should do. I would appreciate your vote in November. Thank you. Good evening, and have a good evening.
Thank you. I am running for re-election because I like my job most days. And I feel I have proven my ability to lead the office forward in this challenging environment. I have creatively guided the assessor's office through software changes, legislative changes, reduced budgets, and employee layoffs, while maintaining consistent and equitable values for taxation. I look forward to being your county assessor for another 4 years. I thank you for your vote. I am Melody Peterson, running for re-election for county assessor, and I always say this, remember, your vote does count. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. The next two candidates we'll be hearing from are those running for county auditor, Patty McGuire and Charles Rhodes. So Patty, you're up first with your opening.
2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So thank you to the Hood Canal Community Club for hosting this. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Patty McGuire. I'm running for Mason County Auditor. I've been in the elections field for almost 20 years. I was Deputy Secretary of State in Oregon, oversaw the implementation of vote by mail there, built a statewide voter registration system, the largest IT project in Oregon history to be completed on time and on budget. Brought in about 2 million voters from 36 separate 36 county systems into one statewide system. It was a big job. I was Deputy Director of the Federal Voting Assistance Program. That's the part of the Department of Defense that works to make sure that service people and their families and citizens living overseas get to vote wherever they are in the world, regardless of their circumstances. It was a great experience to be able to serve people there. I've managed budgets in a government setting for 25 years. As Deputy Secretary of State, I managed a $44 million budget of general fund dollars, and with about $35 million of federal funds, about the same size as the Mason County budget. So I have budgetary experience. I have experience with customer service. We ran the corporations division in the Secretary of State's office. Front counter, face-to-face with Publix, we automated systems and provided great service, and that's what I want to do as your county auditor.
All right, Charles?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Hood Canal Improvement Club for having me here. My name is Charles Rhodes. I've been a practicing accountant for 39 years. I've lived in Mason County for 13. One of the questions that I'm going to pose at y'all is, as far as a priority, how many here would say that our budget is #1 to get in order, opposed to elections, recording, and vehicles? Okay. That's why I'm running for auditor, is because I believe that I can bring something to the forefront that is going to assist with, proper information to give to the commissioners, work in conjunction with the commissioners, and assist. I want to do something for my community. This is the only way I know how. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. The first question is going to be for Patty and Charles. I promise I won't ask for closing statements. Patty, the auditor is responsible for preparing the county preliminary budget. The county commissioners have a budget director and adopt the final budget. How will you work effectively and efficiently with the county commission appointed staff?
Thanks, a great question. In my mind, the preliminary budget is the wish list, at least from the elected official side, is the wish list of the services that I, as the auditor, that the assessor, that, the sheriff, the services that they wanna provide to the citizens. It doesn't need to balance. It's a wish list. It's the services you need to provide. So I think you believe, as an elected official, that citizens deserve. Getting to a balanced budget is the job of the commissioners. They have to make the hard choices. You know, that's the glory of the position that they have, is making those hard choices and balancing deputy sheriffs against voters pamphlets, and, you know, those are hard choices. And, so, you know, I think to get back to the question, working with staff to, understand what's in the preliminary budget, what agencies, what, the offices want, what departments want, to get to a balanced budget, is very important work, and I'll work closely with the staff to make that happen.
All right, Charles, you've got 45 seconds. If you want to.
Okay, first of all, dealing with the preliminary budget, I think that the preliminary budget needs to be closer. It needs to be a little bit more than $2 million off. It is one thing to be in a position where we're requesting certain services, certain items, whether or not it be in line items, zero budget, whatever. Okay, the problem that I have is that in the event, and I'll use Leo. Leo does an excellent job for Karen. If Leo ever got sick, we have nobody in that department to be able to take care of the budgets, to work with the commissioners. You need a financial person, an accountant at the helm, and I said that from day one.
All right, thank you. Addie, you've got 30 seconds.
So, as long as I'm auditor, I'm gonna put in the preliminary budget a printed voters pamphlet for voters. I think that's a basic bottom line service that the county should provide, and I'm gonna ask for it every time. It's gonna be the commissioner's job to balance that against the deputy sheriff. You know, that's not gonna be my job as auditor. My job is to say the services in the preliminary budget that I think we need to provide to the citizens of this county.
All right, thank you. Now, a question for Charles from Constance.
Charles, the auditor is responsible for 4 different departments: recording, licensing, financial services, and elections. So what experience do you have in those 4 areas?
As an auditor, I have almost 40 years. As, you know, truthfully, that is the area where we're having the shortfall. The other 3 are not. So as far as I'm concerned, my financial ability, my financial experience is what is going to be needed to run as an auditor for our county. Thank you.
All right, now we can move on to the closing statements.
No, no.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. So, I want to go home. My cat is waiting.
I talked about my elections experience, that's pretty clear. Financial experience, I, again, managed managed budgets in the government sector for 25 years. Licensing and reporting really isn't my customer service. I ran the corporation division of the Secretary of State's office. We had a front counter, we took cash across the counter, we counted all the cash, we dealt with customers, we treated people well, and had happy customers, so that's what I'll do.
Charles, you can leave that.
We don't need, right now, we have an outstanding, the lady back there has done an outstanding job with her staff. There's no question about that. Here's the issue I have dealing with finances. We need someone at the helm that is hands-on with financial services. That, I've said that since day one, I'm saying that now. We do not need customer service. We do not need any more customer service, let me reiterate, we do need customer service, but we do not need our recording department.
30 seconds?
Oh, good. Our customer, okay, our recording, our vehicle, and
No, that means 30 seconds you already had.
they get on me.
You've got a minute now for your final statement, so Patty goes first and then.
No, you're like saying what I was gonna say.
So again, thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to the Canal Improvement Club. I believe that elections are the most important part of the auditor's job. I've worked in the field for 20 years. When I started elections in 2000, it was a lot less complicated than it is today. We weren't worried about other countries hacking into our election systems 20 years ago. The issues around cybersecurity are real, and having someone with elections experience at the helm in elections in the auditor's office, I think is critically important. That's why I want to have this job, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to serve my neighbors here in Mason County.
Cool. Okay, first of all, my audit experience is extensive. My audit experience for some of the firms that I have audited with was Touche and Rouse, Deloitte Haskins Sells, Deloitte and Touche, et cetera, et cetera. I have done both corporate as well as 501c3 nonprofits. You know, my goal is at a zero variance. I don't know if, you know, if my opponent, you know, has any knowledge regarding the financial, yes, ma'am, the financial, the financial expertise it's going to take to work with Leo, as well as where's Mr. Schutte, but anyway, our commissioners as well. So I'm saying, you know, please vote for Charles Rose at you know, in November, and I won't let you down. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. We've got 6 more offices to go, and I guarantee I'll get the format down at least. Irene and Tim here. The next 2 people we'll hear from are running for Mason County Commissioner District Number 3, Kevin Schmelzen and Sharon Kraft. So your 2-minute opening statements are up, and Kevin, you're.
Hi, my name is Kevin Schmelzen, and I'm running for Mason County Commissioner. I've been working on behalf of Union and Mason County for the past several years. In 2016, as Community Engagement Coordinator for Mason Conservation District, I actually spoke with this club here about knotweed management, erosion control, and other community concerns. As founder and leader of Shelton to the Top, I worked with over 250 community members in the greater Shelton area to remove over 250,000 pounds of trash from the greater Shelton area. We removed thousands of pounds of trash from Lower Webb Hill Road, which unfortunately, you know, we cleaned up thousands of pounds of trash and it hardly made a dent. This is something that we needed to take a serious look at here in Mason County, and Webb Hill Road is probably one of the most littered areas in Mason County, unfortunately. I attended the presentation recently by Dr. Richard Honor about the septic lagoon. I have serious concerns about this kind of facility in this particular location. From the information that I have seen, the realistic worst case scenario could pose a very real public safety catastrophe from residents from Union to Lake Limerick. Mason County is unique and attractive because of our beautiful natural environment and the rural lifestyle opportunities it provides. And we need to make sure that we protect those if we want people to keep on coming to Mason County, keep on spending money in Mason County. We need to make Mason County a place where people of all generations are proud and excited to live, visit, work, and raise a family. We do this in part by protecting and emphasizing the aspects of Mason County which already draw people here, and using the resources we already have here, such as people and businesses that are already taking real efforts to make a real difference here in Mason County. To to tackle the problems that are holding us back. Again, my name is Kevin Schmelzlin. I'm running for Mason County Commissioner, and I hope you'll help your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Sharon?
I am Sharon Trask, and I'm running for Mason County Commissioner. A little bit about myself. Right now, currently, I work for the House of Representatives. I've spent 6 of my 7 years there working for leadership, and absolutely love my job. So you wonder why I would run for county commissioner. Everything that I do for Washington State, at where I work now, I can bring to Mason County. I can make Mason County, or help Mason County grow, bring business in. I understand the function of government. My boss plays a major role in the state budget process, giving me insight into how a budget actually works, and the challenges associated with it. My position also gives me the opportunity to see how, I already said this, how government really works. In addition to working at the legislature, I also own a business with my husband, and we've owned several businesses prior to that. One of my favorite businesses was Extreme Indoor Golf. You would bring your golf clubs in. It was virtual golf. So you could golf in Dubai or Hawaii, and it would evaluate your swing. I would not say that my game got any better, maybe a little bit, not much. I'm also a member of a board member for Turning Point. It's the domestic violence shelter in Shelton. A member of the Lions Club. I was a commander for a squadron for Civil Air Patrol. And so I'm Sharon Trask, and I would appreciate your vote.
All right, thank you. The first question is going to go to Kevin. There you go. Kevin, currently the county is using most of its excise and sales taxes, as well as diverting money from county road taxes to pay for county operations and debt services for the Belfair sewer. This is money that in the past has gone to parks and roads and other infrastructure projects. State law provides that local government can institute one-time impact fees on new construction limited to schools, roads, and parks. Would you consider proposing impact fees on new construction to help pay for infrastructure needs created by growth?
I actually took a tour of the Belfair sewer just last night with the Canal Improvement Club, and I'm excited to see what's going on currently there. I think there's a lot of opportunity in North Mason with the Belfair sewer, but I was shocked when I learned at what an economic drain hole it has been for Mason County. You know, you look at why we're not getting new parks built, why we're not using these real estate excise taxes to really benefit the Mason County community. You know, a lot of that money, a big bulk of that money is going to subsidize the Belfair sewer. I would be in favor of having to look at these impact fees. I don't know if it would necessarily be the right answer, but I'd definitely be open to looking at it. Because when I think about why people move to Mason County, it's because of our beautiful natural environment, our rural lifestyle opportunities, and the other things that we have here that make for a great community, which include good schools, good parks, and these things need to be funded. At Mason County Recreation Area, they have lights and they have a scoreboard, and neither of those are operational. Probably in large part because all this money is going to the Belfair sewer. So in the short term, I am open to looking at these impact fees. Ultimately though, I want to make sure that we are connecting the Belfair sewer with businesses, with households, and actually getting that sewer to pay for itself. Thank you very much.
Sharon, you have 45 seconds.
So I'm not a big person for taxes. I just don't think that we need that many taxes. What I would rather concentrate on, and let's use the sewer to its full extent. So why don't we bring in more businesses, bring in more homes, increase our revenue, have a robust economy. Let's use that sewer to its capacity instead of making the people that are using it now pay for it, let's find other options to bring in. I think we can bring in more business, more revenue that way, instead of adding more taxes to our already high tax base.
Kevin, you have 30 seconds?
I think we all want to bring in new businesses into Mason County. We need to make sure that the right kinds of businesses, for Mason County, that they're actually going to create a living wage economy here in Mason County. But the problem is with the Belfair Sewer, as it currently is, you bring in some new businesses to the area, you're not necessarily going to have those be in an area where you can connect those to the Belfair Sewer. They're looking at connecting to Bremerton. I think there's a lot of good opportunities there, but we need to look at the reality of the situation, which is people move to Mason County for the rural, oh, we're done? Okay, thank you.
You're very gentle with
So the next question is for Sharon, and so here it is typed out. Mason County is currently working through a backlog of 1,300 citizen complaints involving zoning, building, and environmental health. Often inspectors find sites occupied by multiple RVs with no septic systems or running water, definite code violations. As county commissioner, what will you do when these situations are reported to you?
So I think one of the duties of the county commissioner is to work with the citizens and with the different departments. So, Dave Wyndham is the planning and zoning, the director of planning and zoning. So I think the commissioners, what we can do as a whole is to work with them, find solutions, and then help people out of these situations. No running water, that's no situation that anyone would like to be in. Not having a septic, that's not a good situation either. And so I think working with planning and zoning, we can address the issues and get those fixed. We can make it so that our citizens have a good place to live, a reliable system. But I think the biggest duty that the commissioners can do is to work with the other departments, have a good working, solid relationship with them.
Thank you. Kevin, 45 seconds.
This is actually a topic that I've already worked on with Shelton to the Top. We were pretty involved with our community development department, with the sheriff's office, with lots of departments and offices, because we were making things happen for Mason County. We removed over 250,000 pounds of trash from the greater Shelton area, working with these different resources, working with community development. I sat in on one meeting that was kind of shocking to me. It was a great cross-department, cross-office meeting with community development, public safety, the sheriff's office, and other partners, other county partners. And one thing that I was really surprised about was how needed that meeting was 3 years ago. And, it came too late. I want to see more communication between the departments and offices. Thank you.
Sharon, you have 30 seconds.
I think, again, working together, we are a team. Ted and I like to watch football. You can't win a game if you're not working as a team. And so with the commissioners, the department heads, the elected officials, I think we can all work together and solve a lot of problems.
All right, thank you. Time for closing statements. Kevin, you're up first. 1 minute.
I'd say the greatest thing that separates me from anyone else running for Mason County Commissioner is I have been in this community, in this county, taking action for the communities and for the people here for the last several years before I even thought about running for Mason County Commissioner. With Mason Conservation District as Community Engagement Coordinator, working with property owners across the county, including a lot of water property owners, letting them know if they're facing issues, what they can do and where they can look and who they can call. As an active board member and elected vice president at United Way of Mason County, and leading Shelton to the top, where I had a lot of opportunities to make a real difference across the county, and in particular here in Union. I want to get Webb Hill Road cleaned up. As Mason County Commissioner, we're going to make that happen. We have our community partners. We have 60,000 people in this county that want to make a difference. We need a leader who has shown they can mobilize the community, mobilize these different resources that we have and make things happen. And that's what I'm going to do for Mason County if you elect Kevin Schmelzlin as Mason County Commissioner. Thank you.
Sharon?
Well, thank you for hosting. This is wonderful. I love this. So, I worked at the highest levels in the state government, and I know the dedication it takes to do a good job and to do that job well. I have the passion, I have the knowledge, and I know what it would take to be a commissioner. With my skills, my experience, my passion, I know I am the best candidate for the Mason County, or to be the Mason County Commissioner. I'm ready to start day one as your commissioner. I'd appreciate your vote in November 6th. Remember the name. And thank you again for inviting us.
All right, thank you both. The next two candidates we'll be hearing from are running for Mason County Sheriff, Darren Holland and Casey Salter. So Darren, you're up first with your opening statement.
Well, like everyone else has said, thanks again for being here. We appreciate you taking time out of your evening to come listen to us. My name is Darren Holland. I'm running for Mason County Sheriff. I've been a resident of Mason County since 2010. I was fortunate enough to retire here with my lovely wife and my 3 kids. I'm a retired Army combat veteran. I spent 3 tours, 2 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan, most of that time as a counterintelligence analyst with a top secret security clearance. I've led over 300 soldiers, most of that during time of war, time of combat. They've entrusted their lives in me, and I'm hoping that you'll entrust your communities with me as well. My top priorities are to conduct a top-to-bottom audit of the Sheriff's Department to identify staffing issues and inefficiencies, to increase the number of deputies on patrol so that we can decrease response times and increase community presence. Build partnerships with local and neighboring law enforcement agencies to develop cost-effective means to provide services such as SWAT, animal control, and marine enforcement. To diligently work with county leaders to find solutions to our overpopulated jail, and to address the increasing need for mental health facilities and support services to focus on the growing opiate crisis. One of the things that sets me apart from my opponent is that I have the ability to work as a team with the county commissioners, with the local police, with our neighboring communities, and actually take what my opponent has done tremendously a step further. And I look for your vote in November.
Hi, I'm Casey Salisbury. I'm a 51-year resident of Mason County, 28 years of law enforcement experience, plus 4 more as a reserve deputy sheriff before I came put in the last 28 years. I have a master's degree in education from Lesley University. I have a master's certification in education administration from Heritage University. I'm a graduate of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I was selected by the sheriffs of the state of Washington to represent the state of Washington to all the other sheriffs in the nation. After that, I was selected by the sheriffs and the police chiefs of the state of Washington to represent the state of Washington to all the other states in the union, representing police all across the country. I'm endorsed by every former sheriff of Mason County, both Democrat and Republican. Every single sheriff in our region endorses me, both Democrat and Republican. 21 other sheriffs statewide have endorsed me, both Democrat and Republican. The Washington State Fraternal Order of Police, representing 2,600 police officers in the state of Washington, have endorsed me, along with the troopers of the Washington State Patrol Troopers Association. The concerns that I have are, yes, in fact, the jail, and I want to say that, working with that, I want to thank Commissioner Kevin Schutte for being one of the first commissioners to step up and look at that issue. We've been working with the Grace Harbor County Sheriff's Office and their staff down there in view of looking at possibly a regional jail. I worked with another group today, I'm not talking about that yet, but we worked at another possibility of forming a task force or working on a jail. The second thing is putting school resource officers in our schools. We have got to add those. I'm telling you, I just sat with a mother from Sandy Hook. All those kids were killed. Her second grader was killed in that class. The most effective way to keep our kids safe in the public schools is to have uniformed police officers in there. Not to be cutting positions, but to be adding those to our public schools. And every single superintendent that I've talked to in our county supports what I'm trying to do with that. I've asked for 2 more positions for the county commissioners. I've already done a private-public contract with one school district to get somebody there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. First question is gonna go to Devin?
Darren.
Derek?
I can't read and walk.
Would you consider alternatives for first-time offenders of misdemeanors that would allow law enforcement officers to refer offenders to social workers instead of the criminal justice system?
Our jail is full of people that could be moved on to other opportunities for misdemeanors, drugs, so that we have room to put the true criminals that are robbing your houses and threatening your sons and daughters in that jail. Absolutely. We need to work together. We need to work on mental health facilities. We need to work on treatment options. And we need to work on having these programs in place. And yes, it takes money, and we gotta have the funding to do this. But absolutely, my goal and my focus would be to help some of these misdemeanor folks not be taking up bed space in our jail. Because we need to put the real people that are a danger to our society in that jail.
All right, thank you. Casey, you've got 45 seconds.
The challenge to that is we're already doing that. We work very closely with our courts, and the fact of the matter is the people who are in jail are the dangerous people in our community. We've already tried to relinquish through processes with our court to move to other circumstances and move people into other programs out of that jail. We have the people in the jail now. They are the bad people that need to stay there, or they wouldn't be there, and our judges wouldn't be putting them in there. So yes, we've already worked on programs to do that. But the jail's full. This thing's been full since 1985. It's time to start working on it. Thanks.
Darren, you've got 30 seconds.
All right. We keep hearing about the jail being full. Okay. When this jail was built in 1985, it had a capacity of 144 people. And after $1.5 million remodel a few years ago, it was supposed to have a capacity of 104 people. But the jail's capped at around 80 people. And to me, I have questions about why is that? Are we just protecting ourselves from lawsuits? Or what are we really trying to accomplish? Are we trying to increase the sheriff's budget by using the jail as a leverage tool? That's what I'd like to know.
All right, thank you.
Jail in 1985. I thought that was Marie.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you get the next
I
one.
got the next one. I'll answer that.
So, let me read it. Would you support the county commissioners adopting or putting an advisory vote on a ballot to institute a dedicated tax solely for the use in the law enforcement budget?
Absolutely, but I didn't support it last year. I stood silent on it, and here was the reason why. I sat and I watched in Thurston County as we went for a new jail over there, and our sheriff did not support that at the time, because the commission at that time did not put dedicated funds to the jail for everything that has to do with that jail staffing and everything else. And as a result of that, that jail sat for 7 years empty. Commission came in last year and put that out there to you for a vote. Initially, it went out as dedicated funds for the different areas, for indigent events, for the courts, for the prosecutor's office, which looked very good to me. Then they pulled that all off the line, and one of our commissioners said, you give me the money and I'll tell you where we're gonna spend it. There was no way in the world I was gonna support that to you and then come up empty-handed when they turn around and use that to go up and use some water project. That, if this is a dedicated, as you said here, for law enforcement funds, and it's shown that that's exactly where it's gonna go, I will support it. But I will not come out and support again something where you're just gonna go out and get the money and we'll tell you later we're gonna spend it. I will not support that. I didn't support it last year. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Darren, 45 seconds.
Yes, I also support this, but what I do not support is diversion. is pulling money from our road funds to cover the sheriff's budget. When the sheriff had a deficit, or excuse me, a reduction in his budget of almost $3 million since 2016, the office turned around and pulled $5 million from our road funds. Okay? Those funds aren't something that we get to approve, something that we get to vote on. They're funds that are there to help maintain the roads, and legally they can pull those funds because they also go towards policing of the roads. But they should not be diverted to the sheriff's budget to cover shortfalls. But I do support having money set aside for advisory, absolutely.
Casey, you've got 30 seconds.
Those funds are diverted by the county commissioners, not by the sheriff. We do ask for those, and for 30 years, those funds were supposed to be going to this county for public safety issues, and they were not. When I came here, we called it famous 402 funds. They were putting money in the sheriff's budget, increasing it, having the previous sheriff sign it back out with an inflated budget, and it was going right back to where it was. Those funds, and are right now supported by the county sheriff, or excuse me, by the county commission and the county finance director, just advised us to move some money over to pick up some cars and some other things on their advice. So it was not the sheriff pulling it, and that's what those funds are used for.
All right, thank you. All right, closing statements. Aaron, you're first. For 1 minute.
All right, once again, thank you for being here tonight. I care very, very deeply about our community. I care about the safety of our community. And I got a confession to make. I've been addicted to serving. I've done it for over 15 years in the service until I retired. And I'm back here again, feeling the calling, feeling the need to serve my community. And the one thing that I can tell you that I offer is the ability to work as a team with the rest of our government, with the county commissioners, with the police chief, and I can tell you, they're all ready to work as a team, and it's time for change, and I look for your vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you. If we weren't working together as a team, we wouldn't be where we were at. When I first came here, you came to me screaming in this room 12 years ago that there was meth labs everywhere. How many meth labs do you see right now? You came to me screaming about traffic out there. We worked with the Washington State Patrol and those road funds and put together a traffic unit. We had about an average of 15 deaths on the roads a year, and we brought it down to 1 by working together. We have, in fact, been working together. But when you see me up there arguing, I won't back down. I serve as a sheriff. I serve you, the people. I don't serve a county commission. If what is going on is not in your best interest, you'll see me arguing for it. If it's not in the best interest of public safety, I'm going to be the one arguing for it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both. The next two candidates we'll be hearing from are running for Mason County District Court Judge, George Steele and Eric Valley. George, you're up first.
Thank you. Again, I'm George Steele. I'm running for the Mason County District Court Judge position. And I want to thank you for hosting this forum. We're here tonight to discuss our judicial qualifications. We're here to discuss our background and then compare our qualifications. As the municipal court judge for almost 10 years for the city of Shelton, as a judge pro tem for Mason County for going on almost 20 years, and actually is also my experience as a commissioner on the Washington State Traffic Safety Commission representing the judges. I guarantee you that the court system is critical to the future of our county. Soon you have a decision to make. And I'm grateful for those who already decided to support my campaign. People like Judge Victoria Meadows, the current district court judge. The Fraternal Order of Police, Olympic Mountain Lodge number 23. The Shelton Police Guild. Many attorneys, including 2 who are running in this race in the primary, Stephen Greer and John Boney, and many others. I'm grateful for the support they've given. I'm very honored and humbled by it. Others also, too many to count. One I'll name tonight, and that's Mr. Joe Campbell. Mr. Campbell was a defendant who didn't appreciate my leaning on him to go take care of his business in other courts, but he thanked me for it recently and indicated his support. All this is important. I do care deeply about this community. I've lived in this community for nearly 20 years. I'm here tonight to offer information to you. I'm here to ask for your vote so that I can continue to serve this community as the next district court judge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eric Valley, and I believe that I'm the better candidate to be our next Mason County District Court Judge. I'm running because I believe that it's important for the county that I take that job. But I do think it's important also to take on to honor, and I'm not trying to be theatrical, but my dad is here, my dad and his wife, they live 2 blocks down the road, so it would be remiss of me not to give thanks to my father, because my dad's a retired Air Force officer, my parents were 2 school teachers, and they raised me well. They raised me to say yes sir and no sir and please and thank you. So what happened, well, I'm a 57-year-old trial attorney. I'm a 1979 graduate of Shelton High School. I left Shelton High School, went to Dartmouth College, where I majored in philosophy. From Dartmouth, I went to Tulane University School of Law in New Orleans, which was at the time a top 20 law school. It's still a top 50 law school. It's a great law school. I was on the law review. I finished in the top 10% of my class. I got straight A's my first semester in law school, which was unprecedented. This is what I'm good at. I'm talented at the law, and I think the other thing I bring to this job is an ability to relate with people, empathy for people, concern for the least among us as it affects the rest of us, which is part and parcel of all of our jobs here. So, there are many threads in this, and it's easy to lose them. Here's something I always forget to say. In 2015, and this is bold, these are bold words, and I'm going to back off from them. I saved the Shelton High School pool. I'm a master swimmer. I'm a national champion relay swimmer in master swimming. I work hard at those goals. So I'm a swimmer, and the school board was trying to close the pool against a policy that said they would have a pool. I filed an appeal. Then a month later, they abolished that policy. I appealed that policy. While those appeals were pending, the hospital guild and the school board came to a cost-sharing agreement. That demonstrates my awareness, my ability to work with process, and my involvement in the community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. The first question is going to go to George. There you go. George, is there a role for a district court judge to question the prosecutor as to whether a case should be brought to court? If not, why? If yes, how?
The district court, no court judge gets to decide what cases are going to be filed and which cases will not be filed, except so far as whether the charge is supported by probable cause. I don't get to order cases to be filed in my current job or district court. I don't get to order and dismiss because I don't think it's fair. We have a separation of powers, and I respect that. It's the bedrock of our criminal justice community. And so only to the extent that there's, whether or not there's probable cause, I would not have any role in that. I don't get to have that. That's not to say I haven't dismissed cases. I have. And when they weren't supported by probable cause or other issues came up or what have you. So that would be my answer to that particular question. It's important to remember that a judge's job, and it's really the main job a judge has, is to fairly and impartially apply the law that exists, whether I agree with that law, disagree with that law, whether I agree with the policies of the prosecution or disagree with the policies of the prosecution. I have to fairly and impartially apply the law. That is what the judicial role is. It's separate from the executive role the prosecutor has to decide what's going to be brought to court.
All right, thank you. Eric, you've got 45 seconds.
You have a separate question, Eric.
Oh,
you can respond to that.
We'll get it down.
Okay, I'm going to read the question out loud. Is there a role to question the prosecutor as to whether a case should be brought to court? If not, why? If yes, how? Well, the short answer is absolutely not. I always say to myself, there's no such thing as a dumb question, only dumb people. But that's talking to myself. So I'm sorry for insulting the Canal Improvement Club. But of course, a lot of times the answer is in the answer, and Mr. Steele did address that. It's not a fundamental bedrock of our criminal justice system. It's a fundamental principle of our government, separation of powers. And as I said before, there are a lot of threads. This goes into the fact that the judge has to sit on the bench with very circumscribed powers, which I imagine might be frustrating, which leads me to something. Mr. Steele says he's been a judge for almost 10 years, and he has, but I am a criminal defense lawyer, so is George. I'm a family law attorney, so is George. George is a bankruptcy attorney, I'm not. George is a part-time Shelton Municipal Court judge, and I'm not, nor have I been. But that is not the question. The question is, who is better suited to take this role and to address the concerns of the community, such as, well, these are charges that the prosecutor has brought, and I'm here to adjudicate those charges. Anything beyond that is not the function of the judicial branch of government. And the three are judicial, legislative, and executive. And it's all about deference, and it's all about checks and balances. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. George, you've got 30 seconds.
I believe both candidates agree there's only one reasonable choice for the position in this race. My position is, by far with my experience, I am the only reasonable choice because I've been doing this type of work now for almost 10 years, not counting my pro tem time. And that's an important perspective to have. I've been a prosecutor, I've been a defense lawyer, I'm doing all kinds of law. I'm a litigator, that's primarily what I do. And I've had lots of opportunities to see how courts work, things that work in courts I brought with me, things that didn't I got rid of. It's the experience.
Thank you. No,
This is not closing statement.
no, you're done.
Yeah.
Constance has a question for you.
Thank you.
So, here's your question. I'm going to read it to the group. Would you work collaboratively with others to expand alternatives for first-time offenders of misdemeanors that would allow law enforcement to refer offenders to drug court, veterans court, or social workers?
Yes. Yes, I would. As a politician, which apparently I am now for a temporary period of time, I do want to address my 21-year-old daughter joined the Marine Corps, and I asked her, I said, she's the daughter of a lawyer. I said, Emily, why the Marine Corps? I was fully in favor. I said, why the Marine Corps? And she said, it's the only branch I've ever wanted. I said, Emily, that begs the question. And she goes, oh, you're right, Dad. And then she proceeded to tell me why, because my child knows what question begging is. Question begging is answering the question with the question. And what I'm getting at is, respectfully, we heard that because I've been doing this for 10 years means I'm better at it, but we didn't hear anything about why that is so. So moving on to the question here, I want to tell a story. I told Casey Salisbury at Judge Sheldon's retirement function in the courtroom. He was talking to Judge Meadows. They went on for 10 minutes. I had to drag him away. And then I said, Casey, I say that with affection, I said, Casey, I want to tell you personally so you don't hear from someone else and wonder whether I'm working against you. And that's no disrespect to Mr. Holland. I'm not endorsing either one of them. But I'm not working against law enforcement. I told Harris Hartel, the head of Mason County Probation Department, on the front lawn of the courthouse, the same thing. I said, Harris, I know Harris personally. I've taken yoga classes with Harris. I know Harris very well. I've known Harris for a long time. I said, Harris, I'm running for judge. I want you to hear it from me so you don't wonder whether I'm working against you. Harris shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, Eric, I hope if you get elected, you will be a little more receptive to some of our programs. And I kept shaking Harris's hand and looked him in the eye and said, you know I will. Thank you.
All right, George, you've got 45 seconds.
Quick answer, I'm all for alternatives. We have a great community service program in the municipal court. I think it's a bragging point. The fact is, however, without a credible incarceration possibility, all these programs are not going to work, because when defendants know that the orders can't be enforced, they're not going to comply. I've seen this up close, I've seen this personally. The fact of the matter is, that's what we've been dealing with. The other part I will discuss is, I think it's an interesting comment to make that somehow doing a job for as long as I have does not qualify me to do that job. That's absurd. The fact is, I've been doing that job as well as litigating cases, managing my law office, learning the law, and quite frankly, experience matters. And I'm the one in this race, the only one in this race that has it.
Eric, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. Notably, and as I said to the Bar Association when we talked the day after 9/11, I said, we're lawyers, we're not soldiers, we're not doctors. We deal with words, we deal with ideas. So I didn't say it doesn't make somebody qualified. What I said was, You didn't hear how. That is a classic example of question begging. So that has to do the same thing with it's what I bring to the table. It's an epistemology. That's a big word for our mind's operating system. I will examine the source of the power of the district court. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. It's closing statements, starting out with George.
Again, I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. This comes down to experience, who has it and who doesn't. The fact is, I've been serving this community as a municipal court judge for almost 10 years and a pro tem for almost 20. I've seen up close and personal issues I've had to deal with. I've dealt with people in the court. I've dealt with people. I've been fair and impartial. And having that kind of experience is exactly what we need in order to go forward. At least I'm able to say I should be the one because I have the experience. I'm not just here saying I'm the one because I'm the one. And I think that's really the issue we have here in this race. I'm going to do my best, if I'm elected, to follow in the shoes of Judge Meadows and make sure that my rulings are fair and impartial and we have a good court and continue to treat people with respect as I have done. Thank you.
Thank you. I graduated Tulane Law School in 1987. I have 32 years of experience in state and federal courts in Louisiana, New York, and Washington State. I know how to run a courtroom. I know the rules of evidence. I know how to run a court. The municipal court budget is 1/3 that of the Shelton of the Mason County District Court. The fines and penalties it brings in, the district court brings in, are 10 times those of municipal court. Municipal court has 1.5 or 2 clerks. District court has 7 and needs at least 9. Read the letters to the editor. Mr. Steele disrespects people in his courtroom. I will never, ever do that. And I don't mean to be negative and lose votes, although I see a lot of mostly camp, supporters in the room. I will treat people with dignity and respect because one cannot earn someone's respect by disrespecting someone. And the minute you disrespect anyone, you do us all a disservice. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Next two candidates we'll hear from will run for the 35th District Legislative State Representative Position 1, Dan Griffey and James Luntz. Dan, you're up first with your opening statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Canal Improvement Club for hosting us again. Many times we've been together. My name is Dan Griffey. I'm a professional firefighter by trade and a 47-year resident of Mason County. I graduated North Mason High School in 1989. Go Bulldogs, although climbers are pretty awesome too. When you're a state representative, you seem to represent a lot more colors than just the one you went to school in, and I do appreciate that part of the job. I'm also a husband of 26 years. Father of 3 lovely girls and a very proud grandpapa of 3 awesome young kids that if you follow me on Facebook, you would see how awesome they are. They're the best. No offense to anyone there. I serve on your local government committee as ranking member. I serve on the public safety committee, and I serve on the early education committee. In Olympia, I have already helped pass, worked side by side with the prime sponsor as a co-sponsor to pass elder isolation abuse protection in Washington State with the lofty goal of ending elder isolation abuse in Washington State. It's about time. And I met a lovely lady named Carrie Kasem, Casey Kasem's daughter, wonderful lady. Casey actually passed away here from abuse. I'm also championing ending the statute of limitations on felony sex crimes, and I will not stop until it happens. Felony sex crimes, like the crimes of pedophilia, right? If you're a pedophile and there's evidence found, DNA evidence, you need to be prosecuted to rest your natural life. I will always take this side. I will always help those who cannot help themselves and those who have diminished voices. Thank you so much. Dan Griffey, I'd appreciate you sending me back to Olympia.
James?
If I can get out of here without falling over my chair. My name is James Thomas. I very much would like you to send me to Olivia. I brought my company, I own a medical manufacturing business, and I brought it up here, oh, 12, 13 years ago, I guess, because once I got established and could be anywhere in the world I wanted to be, this is where I wanted to be. And since I came here, I've become involved in the community. I just finished up my term as chairman of the Planning Advisory Commission for Mason County. And I'm currently in my last year as board chair of the Economic Development Council. I've had a great opportunity to look around the 35th District and Mason County in particular. And I'm staggered when I realize that with all the wonderful assets that we have in this community, we still lag behind the state and country in unemployment, in median incomes, even in life expectancy. I submit that boils down to vision and leadership. I started my life as a Republican, my adult life. I was raised in a Democratic family. I started my life as a Republican, and being a Republican meant a big tent. When it meant a shining city on a hill, well, that's not what it means anymore. Big difference between me and my opponent is I won't vote against bills like 1439 that protect Washington students from predatory practices of so-called private colleges. I won't vote against the bill, and we'll talk more.
You'll have to vote no on some bills.
You'll have a minute at the end. The first question is going to go to Dan. There we go. Dan, homelessness is a problem throughout the 35th legislative district. Many families are one paycheck away from homelessness. What are your short-term and long-term proposals to deal with homelessness in the 35th district?
So, long-term is zoning. We have to zone property, so we can build housing, affordable housing. And I'd like to talk about intrinsically affordable. We don't need government subsidized housing. What we need to do is build housing that is intrinsically affordable. That's why I supported the tiny homes projects that we are pushing in Olympia. Why should we tell people who are poor that they have to build a 1,000 square foot home, that they have to build a 300 square foot home, or live in a tent? We shouldn't do that. What we should do is put them on foundations, make them pillars of the community, put 2 or 3 of them on a property, working with City of Shelton. I've been working with City of Shelton for about 4 years to try to get them off the ground. I think long and short, we need to zone areas of economic activity and more areas for property for people to live on, and more short, we need to allow people to build the size of house that would work for them, and that's the tiny homes, making them intrinsically low cost. Thank you.
James, you've got 45 seconds.
I too am a firm believer in tiny homes. I would argue that we don't have, at least in Mason County, very much of a zoning problem here. The problem that we have is getting affordable pieces of property that we can build these tiny homes on. That money's got to come from somewhere. I have worked with, in fact, Marilyn Vogler and I set up a nonprofit to explore building tiny homes for the chronically homeless in this community. And that was the #1 problem that we ran up against. So, yes, I think that tiny homes are necessary. I think we have lots of opportunities to build it. It's just a matter of money.
Dan, you've got 30 seconds.
Yeah, so my opponent just mentioned that we need to zone more property so we have more property available that is low cost. We need to have those zoned in smaller parcels that can tolerate that size. So I agree with him. We don't have enough inventory. We need more inventory. Thank you.
All right, the next question is for James and Constance.
At the October 24th Belfair Candidate Forum, you stated that if elected, it was your intent to serve only a few terms. Do you think term limits would be beneficial for statewide offices, and what steps would be necessary to implement such a plan?
Yes, I'm committed to, even with the Economic Development Council, I've made clear to everyone that when my year, next year, as chair emeritus is up, I'm going to leave, because you have to get new blood in. I intend to serve 2 terms as state representative, and then I'm done. It's time to move on. You know, in a way, I'm sorry that I'm even having to run for this position, because personally, I'd like to see somebody younger and a bit more female than I am in this position. But it fell to me to do this, so I'm not sure that I would want to legislate, though, that I don't think I would want to legislate term limits. I think that needs to be between the representative and the people that he represents.
All right, got 45 seconds, Dan?
So in Washington State, we have automatic term limits, and that is your vote. The founders of Washington State wanted to make the House of Representatives to be of the people. So they said that we had to go ask for our jobs in great town hall forums like this every 2 years. So we have automatic term limits. It's when you say I don't get to go there anymore. My job right now is to get reelected and make sure that I continue to serve as your pit bull in Olympia and make sure that Mason County issues are brought to the front. And you know, when it comes to it, just remember we ask our representatives to campaign every 2 years, and that's when you get a chance to kick them out. Thank you.
And the problem with that is that these things become self-fulfilling. And my opponent now is in the unfortunate position of being in the minority. So that means bringing the issues of Mason County to the fore isn't gonna work out so well.
All right, thank you both. You've got 1 minute now for closing statements, starting with Dave.
So, I passed a bill that ended the tax on, the property tax on seniors, nonprofit senior centers in Washington State, making sure that those, Mason County senior centers can leverage their own money. I passed a bill that, helped pass a bill that's going to end, elder isolation abuse. We got, millions of dollars for infrastructure projects in the city of Shelton. It's absolutely disingenuous to say that I'm not effectual in the minority. As a matter of fact, I'm thriving in the minority. And because I've worked across party lines, every bill that I've passed in Olympia has passed with a number 2 Democrat. So I made sure that building those relationships is my top priority, to make sure you are well represented, and I guarantee you are. I'm Dan Griffey. I once again ask for your vote, and I will continue to work for you in Olympia. Thank you so much.
The vote that you cast a month from now is going to define what this county, what this legislative district, what your community is going to look like for you, for your children, for your grandchildren. I think it's important that you have a representative who is not going to vote to keep bump stocks available. I think that you need to have a representative who is not going to vote against a responsible bidder law that bars temporarily companies who willfully violate state laws. I think it's important that you have a representative who will vote for the McCleary fix. James Thomas, vote for your vote.
Thank you. All right, the next 2 candidates we're going to hear from are running for the 35th Legislative District, Representative position number 2, David Daggett and Drew McEwen. And starting with your opening statements, Dave, you're up.
listening to politicians. I'm married to Janine, who's standing in the back. She's a Lutheran pastor. So, yeah, if I was elected to the House, you might get a few "what would Jesus do" type of things. You just can't help it when you're living with a pastor to have some of the rub off on you. I have a son, 26 years old. He's an electrician. We live on Hartstein Island. Our family history dates back to the 1800s here in Washington. I understand that's an important thing for people. My education, I have a bachelor's in aeronautics, an MBA from University of Puget Sound. Worked on my doctorate, towards my doctorate at University of Washington. My thesis was on economic impact of companies in the surrounding community. But I finished with a PhD in engineering. I taught in universities, California State University, worked for about a decade at Rolls-Royce, worked on the Star Wars program years ago, and spent most of my career at Boeing. There I was a technical fellow, so that's kind of like an executive engineer, I guess, where I led teams of people that would work on new aircraft designs. The reason I'm running is because I want to give you a choice, a democratic choice in the House. You know, we actually have, according to the Secretary of State, we actually have more Democrats than Republicans in the 35th, but yet we have all Republican representatives. So I'm standing up to give you a choice for having a Democrat in office. And what's different between me and Drew, I think has to do with taxes, and we'll talk about that here very soon.
All right, thanks. Drew?
Thank you, good evening. It's one of my favorite forums because it's a 2-minute drive, so it's the easiest one to get to, and live here in Union, and I absolutely love it. I appreciate you coming out tonight. My sons grew up here, and Wally lives 2 doors down from me, so he probably has more horror stories about them than I do, because he probably observed more of it. So my apologies, Wally. I'm running for re-election. It's been a pleasure to serve you in Olympia these last 6 years. When I ran in 2012, it was the same issues that I'm running on today, and I've had legislation signed into law on all of these, and that is ensuring our kids have a world-class K-12 education, we have a strong economy, and that we're accountable to you, the taxpayers, with your dollars, and that we make sure that we're constantly looking at our state budget, implementing reforms for efficiencies, and the best use of your dollars. The Navy brought me out here back in the early 90s. The Hood Canal has been my both my work area and my play area for a long time. I served in the submarine force, was in the Navy's nuclear power program, and this area has been near and dear to me for a long time. One of the accomplishments this past couple of years I'm very proud of was actually from Long Live the Kings. People talk about working bipartisan and everything, but they actually do it and you're recognized for it. There's a big difference there. And Long Live the Kings, I'm sure you're aware of, their entire motto is in restoring our salmon runs, our native salmon runs. And they gave me an award last year for the efforts that I've done in doing that, specifically in the Hood Canal. And that is an important part of our environment here, also our economy. I look forward to returning to Olympia in January, continuing to serve you, continuing to work across the aisle to get things done, to move this state forward, that we can be a leader in this nation. And I look forward to earning your vote again this fall. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The first question is going to go to Dave. Dave, you've talked about bringing a wood chip-based biofuel industry to the 35th district. What policies would you put in place to ensure long-term viability of the biofuel industry, and that would balance this new industry with our natural resource, tourist and hospitality industries?
Yes, so I have to say this wood chip to biofuel project, you probably saw several years ago. We flew an airplane when I was at Boeing. We flew an airplane from SeaTac to Washington, D.C. that was fueled by wood chips that uses an enzyme to break this material down, waste wood products, and it results in a fuel that you could use to make plastics, or you can use to make biofuel. And so I thought, our
district is just really suffering because of the losses that we've seen in the timber industry. So wouldn't it be cool if we could have a synergistic type of refinery that's hooked up to some of our mills that would turn this waste product into a fuel? The biggest complaint I hear or concern from people is they say, well, it's going to result in the deforestation of this area. And no, it wouldn't, because, you know, if you take a tree, it has more value in making a 2x4 out of it than to chop it up into little bits of pieces to make a biofuel. And so, just because you're using a waste wood chip, that ensures that it's going to be viable, and you're also not going to be burning fuel or wood chips like the adage plant that a lot of people were concerned about.
All right, Drew, you've got 45 seconds.
So I think, you know, as long as we maintain our strong environmental review policies, you know, through ORCA and SEPA, et cetera, you know, I'm all for expanding further uses of what we have here in this area. And I think we both agree on that. So innovation, it's an economic driver. The timber industry is thriving here. If you know somebody that's unemployed, go to Sierra Pacific, you'll be hired tomorrow. It is a thriving industry here. Are there more avenues that we can continue to look at to further this local economy? Absolutely, I'm in favor of those. And let's have those, make sure we maintain our environmental standards, and let's continue with that innovation.
All right, Dave, 30 seconds.
And then I might add also that, you know, there's about a dozen airlines that are already flying on this carrier in Europe. There are 4 airports that are using it, and SeaTac has a goal to have 20% of their fuel be from sustainable sources by 2020. And so I think this would be a great opportunity for us to go beyond just what the 5-year plan for Shelton talks about, of growing mushrooms and marijuana. I want to see some high tech come back into the industry, high paying jobs.
Thank you. All right, the next question will be for Drew from Canal Citizen.
You serve on the Governor's South Resident Orca Recovery Task Force. Your recent report highlights 2 main issues impacting survival: not enough Chinook salmon to eat, and the high toxicity in the orca's fatty blubber. What are your solutions to prevent toxins from entering our waterways that are contributing to the demise of this iconic orca whale which frequents our district?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to serve in that task force. It's a bipartisan task force. It's got stakeholders from every industry, from every walk of life in there, from the tribes to recreational boating, sport fishermen, to legislators. And, you know, we just did our draft report on this, and the southern resident killer whale is a big issue. And you know, there's 3 main issues that we're looking at. It's the toxin levels in the sound. It's the quantity of salmon, which also relates to the toxins, and then boat traffic / noise. Some of these are easier fixes than others. On the toxin level, we've made a number of improvements in this state in how we handle wastewater, and I'm in favor of continuing to look at doing that in an efficient and economical manner so that we protect our waterways. We also need to significantly increase our hatchery production. The governor made, in my opinion, a horrible decision 2 years ago when he shut down the McLaren hatchery. $800,000, but it generates $5 million in revenue, and it directly affects the rest of our marine life here. We finally have got an understanding in the state that we need to significantly increase those hatchery productions, and at the same time working on ensuring that our native salmon runs have the habitat and the ability to continue that spawning. So I look forward to continue to work on that task force and addressing those issues throughout the South.
Dave, you have 45 seconds.
So right offhand, that sounds like great suggestions. One thing I learned when I was working at Boeing in the environmental group is, you know, I was on a panel called the IPCC, the Governmental Panel on Climate Change, and so this had to do with addressing environmental changes and climate changes. And I realized these scientists that are working on it know so much more than I do
that I'm not gonna tell them what I think needs to be done. I wanna listen to the experts as to what needs to be done. And I think that would probably apply to the same thing with the orchids. I can listen to the news, but I really wanna talk with the experts. I'm an engineer, I'm data-driven, show me the facts.
30 seconds.
Yeah, that's why it's important to go out on the water, spend the day with Fish and Wildlife up there, and also with Whale Watch, which are college students that this is their focus, is this area, and spending a day out there and hearing what they're seeing, what they're observing is critical in developing these solutions. So absolutely, listening and taking that feedback is important, and continue to do that, and also seeing what recreational and commercial fishermen see and observe. These are all critical in that input, and that's why all those organizations and groups are part of this task force.
All right, thank you. All right, now 1 minute closing statements, Dave.
I'm not a career politician. Maybe that's a good thing. It's caused me to have to go out and talk to people and spending weeks talking to folks, seeing what's important to them. The #1 issue that I hear is property taxes are just killing us. The #2 issue is we're concerned about our health care. And third is income inequality as a big part. And so Washington State has the most regressive tax structure in the US. How do we fix that? I'd like to hear from you some ideas on how we fix this most regressive tax structure. The rich pay the least amount of their income for taxes and the poor pay the most. One idea that I have is possibly a capital gains excise fee that would only be paid by the super wealthy, making $670,000 per year. And this is from things like selling stock. If they make $1 million, they can pay a few bucks to help educate our kids.
Thank you again for tonight. I appreciate this opportunity to earn your vote this fall. And a quick side note on that, if you get tired of the mail bombardment, don't wait till November 6th. Vote when you get your ballot right away, because it takes you off of the list. It's public knowledge who hasn't voted. So there's just a side note on that. You don't want to get bombarded, vote right away. And that'll be taken care of. So, on our economy here real quick, we've had record revenues in this state. And, with 35 years of one-party control in the executive mansion, 22 out of 25 years of one-party control in the legislature, what have we seen? Constant drumbeat for more taxes in light of record revenues and raiding the rainy day fund and not giving you any of your money back. I was one of the advocates to either lower our sales tax or lower the property tax this year. That was rejected by that same party that's been in power that long. I'm going to continue to be a voice for you, the taxpayer, and ensuring that your dollars are well spent, and when we have these record revenues, that we're not raiding the rainy day fund and taking more of that away from you. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Well, certainly last but not least are our two candidates running for state senator in the 35th district. Irene Bowling and Tim Shelton, and I told you two I'd have to form that figured out. But I'm on a roll, so Irene, you're up.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, being so patient this evening. It's been very informative listening to everyone else that's running for office. Thank you for your time. I'm Irene Bowling. I'm running for state senate. I live in Bremerton. I'm married for almost 40 years. I have 3 grown children. I'm a teacher, and I have run here in this district before, and I've actually appeared in a debate here once before. I'd like to cut to the chase and not talk a lot about myself, but talk about what I want to do and what I will do once elected. I want to tax big corporations to make them pay their fair share to help support education and all the other things, the social mental health programs, the retirement programs, and elder care that we need. I want to get rid of the B&O tax for small business. I'm a small business person. I know how much this hurts. I want to lower your property taxes, which was not the case here this last time. All your property taxes went up. I want to bring our schools up to par, especially in rural school districts like what we have here. I want to expand OC in Shelton, and I want to have free community college down the line and low interest loans for students and build up our apprenticeship program here in Mason County for jobs. I
wanna bring industry in, like cross-laminated timber, which Oregon now is doing, and I think we should have a plant here. I think hemp agriculture, and that is not marijuana growing, hemp is something that they use for a lot of different things, and it'll grow in all kinds of environments. We need tax incentives for people to settle in Mason County. We need high-speed internet, good cell phone reception, and we need to build tourism. And this is something that really, we don't even have a Department of Tourism in Washington State. We need to work with the Skokomish and Squaxin tribes and that. We need to build a YMCA here in Shelton. And we have to really put our environmental protections first and foremost, because that's why we all live here. And we need to improve roads in and out of Mason County. Those are only a few things that should be addressed and have not been sufficiently, in my opinion.
Yep.
Thank you. It's great to see everybody again. I'm Tim Sheldon. I'm seeking re-election to the state senate. Your instructions were to give you a little background and then tell you what distinguishes ourselves from each other. As you know, I live across the canal here in Potlatch. Been there for a long time. Family grew up there. Went to Hood Canals, or to actually Hoodsport Elementary School. No longer there. A couple things stand out, I think, as distinguishing us. I've been the longest serving state legislator, 28 years. That doesn't mean I'm the oldest, but I've been there the longest. And I've had a chance to work with the Republicans and with the Democrats. I've served as the President Pro Tem for 3 years with Lieutenant Governor Olin as well as Lieutenant Governor Habib. I have been a county commissioner for 12 years. My opponent has not been elected to any public office, has not had to write any budgets, like 12 county budgets, or many state budgets. I also serve on the Transportation Committee, and 4 members, Republicans and Democrats, we sit in a room on Wednesday and Thursday night with the staff and write the transportation budget that the hearing is held for with the Senate Transportation and then on to the House and the Governor, hopefully. So I've had great opportunities to be involved. I've passed bills from all kinds of issues, social issues, economic issues, things that help us here. I've also got a great staff, and we've responded to thousands of constituent issues. My opponent, again, a distinction, has never had the opportunity to respond to hundreds and even thousands of constituents who call daily with problems and want to navigate our system of state government. I think we're really good at that in my office, and I think I'm very good with working with this delegation that we have with Dan and Bruce. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. The first question will be for Irene, and Constance will give it.
That's not what I have, but I'm going for it. So, in Mason County, there are many identified toxic cleanup sites in need of restoration. Examples are Goose Lake and the City of Shelton's C Street dump. Both of these sites adjoin a housing and business park proposed over 20 years ago. There has been little movement on the Goose Lake cleanup by the Rayonier Corporation over the past years, while Rayonier has completed a substantial cleanup of their contaminated property in the Port Angeles area. As our state senator, what will you do to clean up all the toxic sites in the 35th legislative district?
I'm glad I've been asked this question, because I think it relates a lot to experience, but also who you're beholden to. My opponent has been almost fully funded by huge corporations. And this has been going on for 28 years. So who is he going to fight for? You, in cleaning up toxic sites, or the people that are funding his campaigns and keeping him in power for 28 years? That's the real question here. The reason that these toxic cleanup sites haven't been done is because there's no one fighting to do that. And a state senator, that is his obligation, including representatives too, I have to say. And I would like to be retired along with my husband, who's 8 years older than I am. I don't need to be doing this job. I'm doing this because I am frustrated with all the things that need to be done in this county and beyond. The But this if involves Kitsap County, where I'm from, and Thurston County. We need representation. Experience doesn't make the difference if it's corrupted by alliances with huge corporations.
Tim, you've got 45 seconds.
Okay, well, 45 seconds, wouldn't even give me enough time to address the fact that she's saying I'm corrupted. I just don't believe that. I think you don't believe that. Would you have elected me to the legislature 10 times if you think I was corrupt? Have I ever been accused of taking money or doing something illegal or giving favor to a company or special interest? No. You know, the campaign limits in our state are very good. That was approved by you, introduced and approved by initiative, so that candidates cannot take massive amounts of money from special interests. You know, if you take a look at it, I'm a Democrat. They don't think so. Daggy doesn't think so. Irene doesn't think so. Don't think I'm a Democrat. Well, I'm endorsed by the plumbers, pipe fitters, carpenters unions, patrol association, public school employees. Those are all unions.
You get 30 seconds, Irene.
Getting back to the topic of toxic cleanup, you have to have people that don't have any skin in the game. You have to have people that will look at this objectively and put big corporations their feet to the fire. I promise you, when elected as state senator, I will do that for this county, for Thurston County and Kitsap County. I've already been fighting this situation up in Kitsap County with a huge double batch concrete plant, gravel pit, the headwaters of Dickerson and Chico Creek. We've been fighting it for 10 years up there.
Thank you, Irene. The next and last question. No. All right, Tim, not far from here is the regional human waste disposal site. This site has been unable to meet state regulatory standards. Emergent chemicals of concern are not monitored, and there is a threat of contamination to the aquifer. As our state senator, what will you do to ensure that human waste disposal sites are distributed fairly in appropriate locations throughout the state, thereby reducing environmental degradation and protecting the public health?
And how much time do I have?
You have a minute and a half.
Okay. Now, I thought this question would come up. Web bill. So in 2006, I was a county commissioner and a state senator. I worked with the Department of Ecology and the Department of Health to get 4 and 5, I think 5 new wells drilled around that site. I know Roger, the owner. I've been up there. I've worked very hard to make that site as environmentally clean as possible. Now, do I like it? No. The Department of Health has permitted that, not our local department, but the State Department. So when I get back to Olympia, I'll introduce a bill that says that a facility like that cannot expand because it has high level of nitrates. If they're tested high, which they are, they should not expand. Then I'll have a hearing on that bill in our committee that I serve on, as well as inviting you to come and testify. Then I'll talk to Maya Bellin, the head of the Department of Ecology. I'll talk to John Weissman, who's with the Health Department, and I'll work with those people in saying, you have to find us some solutions here. We're not going to accept all this waste. We're not going to take all the traffic on Highway 106. It is possible to make some expansions in Belfair, for example, some modifications, so they can take some of the septic. You know, they're underserving that community now. They need more business. It's possible to make a regional solution for this, and it won't be here at Webb Hill.
Thank you, Irene. 45 seconds.
Yes, I've been knowledgeable about this for quite some time, and the people, maybe some people even in this room, are very concerned about the septic lagoon. The fact is that you have had the opportunity, and now that the Department of College and that's all gone through, and they are expanding. There are already trucks going up and down there. So to me, this is too little, too late. So I really don't understand why you're saying this is going to happen in the future. It's already a done deal.
Tim, you've got 30 seconds. You get the 30 seconds.
I agree.
I disagree that it's a done deal. I don't think that you probably have never been to the site, correct?
I don't have to answer.
You don't have to, oh, I see. Well, you have never been to the site, I know that. You've never, written a budget for a sewage treatment plant like I did in Belfair, never worked with state officials, regulators, you never worked with the EPA, you've never worked with the State Department of Health or the local Department of Health, you've never been a county commissioner and dealt with the problem. Do you think that people that are elected are just oblivious to problems? No, they work on it. If they don't, they're not there anymore. People vote them out.
Thank you. Time for the last closing statements of the night. 1 minute each. Irene?
Well, I apologize, Senator, if I got under your skin, but I'm frustrated, as you can tell. And I think there are a lot of people in our community that are very frustrated by what has not happened in Mason County, what is not happening with 35th LD. And as state senator, you have to take the bull by the horns and make changes. There was an idea earlier about experience. Well, you've had 28 years, yes, of experience, but maybe it's time for a change. Maybe we need some new blood. Maybe we need some new ideas. You know, that's not a bad idea. So I'm here to present myself as a possible candidate for you. You can take your consideration on this, but I'm doing this because I want change. I'm not interested in the status quo. I'm not interested in something to be there just because it's always been like that. And I'm also not interested in supporting major corporations and tax situations in our state and people against the unions, people against the working class.
Tim? 1 minute.
1 minute. Well, thank you for coming today. And my opponent, you're not getting under my skin. It's just that, you know, the Democrats have spent millions of dollars trying to get me out of office, so it just continues. I have worked very hard for you for 28 years in the legislature. I can give you some examples. The Domestic Violence Center found money for that, found money for the city of Shelton to help build that new mill. It's a tremendous mill in Shelton, the most modern mill in the United States. Sits right in Shelton and employing 300 people, looking for more people. Work very hard, as I say, on Hood Canal. I live on Hood Canal too. We run a tree farm. We want it as pristine as possible here. We don't want truck traffic. We have to deal with that. Found the money to build that Pretty Creek Bridge. Remember when you couldn't get across Highway 101? Working on these big culvert projects down here. We've got great opportunities with the court case that mandates culvert removal by the state, and it will be the county as well for new jobs in that field as well. Thank you.
All right, before I turn it over to Andrea, let's have a round of applause.
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't think I'm going to go to sleep tonight. Very excited. I'm so grateful for all of you coming here tonight to speak to us, and all of you for attending. This is one of the things that the Canal Improvement Club absolutely loves to do. And many of you have been here before, as you've all discussed, and some of you we hope to see you again. Maybe not in the same configuration, but thank you very much for coming. We really, really appreciate it, and especially you guys who are not living locally and don't have, have to drive more than 2 blocks to get home. I know it's a long way from Kitsap County. 35th District, as you may know, is enormous, or maybe you don't know, but it goes all the way to Port Townsend and all the way down to Olympia.
Not into Jefferson.
Yeah, it does, isn't it?
No.
Kitsap County, yeah. There's a map on the giant wall. So please keep